a kid going to wrestling in Louisville, what percentage of the crowd, if you had to guess, was under the age of 14, and what percentage was over the age of 60?
Oh, God, now let me think about this. I mean, there was tons of kids, and, you know, they had a kid's ticket. There were so many kids. You know, if there were 3,000 people there, there had to be 300 or 400 kids, at least 10%, wouldn't you think? Well, wouldn't you think? You weren't there. And my God, the old people, I mean, there was Grandpa, can't remember what his name was now, all these years, 40 years later, but at one point, he had been coming since Jarrett opened the Gardens in 1970. And at one point in the 90s, he missed a week because of some kind of surgery, and they had to have Dean Hill announce that he was okay and would be back next week because people were asking. Wow. And I mean, you know, because and also the old people that would come, because grandmothers would come with you know, there would be 3 generations of some people, and definitely the people we first got front row tickets from. It was this woman and her niece and her son-in-law. That always, so anyway, probably same, at least 10 or 15% over 60, but you know, tons of adults. Maybe at some point more male than female until like the Fabs and Lawler and Dundee and the rock and roll, everybody was in the territory at the same time. Then it was 60% female and tons of girls. But when I first started going, the teenage girls were at more of a minimum because Jerry Jarrett was really the only, you know, teen idol baby face at him. Well, and Ricky Gibson. He was a fine-looking young man, but the young girls definitely started coming more toward the late 70s. And also, I mean, I don't even know how to adopt a percentage of black and white, but it wasn't like there was a bunch of black fans there enough to where it wasn't unusual for black fans to be there, and nobody, but you never really thought anything about in those days trying to figure out the demographics, and there wasn't any Hispanics because I don't know if there's any Hispanic people in Louisville at that point in time.
Because I bring up how there's no,
and there was one really good-looking Asian girl that wore this short skirt every week. Holy mackerel, she could have been. Oh, anyway, go ahead.
Because I bring up how there's no selling and there's no heat. And I think a large part of it, too, is the demographics of the audience. Because when you think about it, who were the people screaming and yelling at the heel? It was the old people. It was the kids. It was the working class people. It wasn't a bunch of people in their 20s in T-shirts standing there, you know, saying, you know, okay, amuse me, you know, okay, flip for me, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The only people that actually go to, I mean, WWE shows you'll get the families, but they're not there to see the, you know, like, okay, let's see Lawler get some fucking heat on Dundee and juice him and come back next week in a Texas death match. They're just there to have a hoot. But with any other wrestling show, you're right. It's all people who are not even just smart, but have probably, half of them have probably been to wrestling school. And so, the only thing they're going to scream for is a bunch of people doing shit they wish they could do themselves. They don't care who wins. Once again, I've said it a million times. We would leave the Gardens in the 70s if the main event had been the greatest match ever, but the heel won. Well, I wouldn't because I wouldn't see the great, but everybody would be saying, well, fuck, well, next week, you know, Lawler will get him or Dundee will get him or whatever. They would be disappointed in the greatest match ever because the heel won. But if it was a shitty match ever and the babyface won, they were turning cartwheels down fucking Muhammad Ali Boulevard because everything made sense that way. This whole thing does not make sense if people like the heels, don't like the baby faces, or know how the fucking thing is being perpetrated, which is, once again, why I've often asked myself the question, why do we do this anymore? It's the gig, as they say, is up.